Welcome back to the Creating Synergy podcast. Today I have the great man Anthony Kittel on the show. Welcome, Anthony.
Thanks, Daniel. Great to be here.
So for the past 27 years, Anthony's been the owner and CEO of REDARC Electronics that specialises in manufacturing advanced electronics for the automotive, defensive and mining industries, and has taken the company from which he purchased in 1997 from 8 people to over 400 people across the globe. So it's an amazing story. Very excited to have you here today. Thank you for coming along. Just a little bit of background information for you on you as well. You took REDARC to win some prestigious awards, such as the 2014 Telstra Australian Business of the Year, 2017 Westpac Business of Tomorrow. You were the Entrepreneur of the Year in 2013 for the Central Region Technology category, South Australian Exporter of the Year, plus so many more. It's been an amazing ride for you.
It has been a fun journey. Yeah,
It's been great.
Always something happening, which is good. Keeps me motivated and interested.
Brilliant. I love to start the podcast learning a little bit more about who is the person that's sitting in front of us today. So I'm really interested in, who is Anthony Kittel and what do we need to understand about your earliest context to understand the person that's sitting here now?
Sure. So I guess my background is I grew up in the country, grew up in Port Augusta, mid-north. Lived there for the first 17 years of my life until I left high school. So
Rural country.
Real country boy, blue-collar family. Dad worked at the power station. Mum was a hairdresser. 3 siblings. And, had a great life. Really lived for sport growing up.
Yep.
Pretty much every sport that you can think of I had a crack at.
Did you excel in anything?
Did I what, sorry?
Excel in anything?
I like to think I was okay at it, but golf and football were probably my two keys.
So it's Aussie rules football?
Aussie rules and cricket.
Yeah.
But I was always keen to have a crack at anything. Table tennis, volleyball, you name it.
Yeah.
There's something to keep us busy.
Yeah, you had the hand-eye coordination.
Yeah, it must have been.
Yeah.
And I guess I was motivated. So, like golf, it was always out practicing, hitting balls every evening and having fun with friends.
Did you have a big parcel of land where you could just get out the back and tee?
No, I wasn't too far from the golf course. So
Okay.
Mum would drop me there and always meet up with a couple of mates and we'd make up our own challenges on the golf course. So we played night golf, we played left-handed golf, we played golf with one club. We'd always do something to keep us interested.
Yeah, great. Do you still play now, obviously?
I still play now,
What do you hit off?
About 12,
Yeah,
So
great.
I still manage to hit around okay.
Yeah,
It's
well
just around the greens that you need the practice.
Very good. I play a little bit, but I'm the guy that carries the wine.
Yep.
I don't hit it very well. So tell us just a little bit more about your parents there for a moment. You said blue collar, country, obviously. What do we need to know about them? I'm very interested in understanding the family philosophies that you grew up and sort of how that shapes you now.
Yeah, so Dad was a fitter and turner, and so I would often go with him to the power station on a Saturday morning when he worked overtime, and I'd get to walk around and meet the people he worked with and look at the machines, and I guess that's where I sort of got a little bit of an interest in engineering from an early age. On Mum's side of the family, she came from Hawker in the Flinders Ranges. Her dad owned a garage and a museum and basically a fully fledged service station at Hawker, and so I would go there and work every school holidays and pump petrol and serve customers and
Learn a little bit about small business.
Yeah, learn about small business, and the same on my dad's side. My pop was the electrician in town, so he had a small group of electricians that he ran, Port Augusta Electrical, and again, I would often go and sit in the office and watch him do his work. But I spent the most time, I guess, at Hawker, and influenced particularly by Mum's dad, Fred Teague, who's a bit of a legend up there.
Yep.
My uncle and cousin run the petrol station today, so it's still in the family. But I learned a lot in those early years.
So good. What sort of core lessons did you learn in those days? Was there something that your parents sort of just kept drumming into you, or your family kept drumming into you, or a particular moment in time that sort of shaped who you are, or was it just an evolution of living in the life in the country?
Yeah, no, I think there's definitely a few key lessons. So I guess from Mum and Dad, it was certainly about hard work, and they, Dad would always be working 6 or 7 days a week to put us through private school, so so that was a good lesson there. And then I'm from mum and her dad and the family. It was really around customer service. So my grandfather he'd be up at the garage at 7 a.m. and he'd close the garage at 7 p.m. Everyone would go and knock on his front door, and he'd go down and open up and serve them petrol at all hours of the night.
Yeah, okay.
So he just had this customer service ethic that I've never seen before.
Which is great, and no doubt we'll get into that, which is no doubt transferred into your world. Is there anything that you look back on now and just really smile about? Makes you laugh, makes you smile.
Look, I think just purely the fact that we had a good upbringing, a good childhood, and it was fun. I love living in Port Augusta, and there was the water, Spencer's Golf, and sand hills, and you could ride a bike everywhere, and walk to school, all these sorts of things now, which sometimes with your own kids, you think how life's changed over the years.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to pick on the sport aspect of it. I've had a lot of conversations here on this show with many CEOs, many entrepreneurs, many successful people. And one common theme that I see quite often is the sport background, the interest in sport, the ability to play at a high level, commit yourself consistently to training, goal setting, everything that, mingling with a team, setting strategy as a team, all the above, and the sacrifice that comes with that. Would you attribute a lot of your success to your love and dedication to sport as a junior age?
Yeah, I think certainly goal setting and being motivated, committing to the training. But I think, as you mentioned, teamwork, there's really good lessons there, and I enjoyed being in teams. Nothing better than succeeding and winning as a team. And even, when I was young and playing golf, I was always playing in the seniors with much older men, and, having to communicate with someone who's 20, 30, 40 years older than you was, as a 16-year-old, was always an interesting challenge, because I was pretty shy, and so you have to chat and make conversation, which was always a challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. In footy, where'd you play? What position? I
played everywhere, and but most of my career at fullback.
Yeah, okay. I'm a defender. It'll be Mick Martin about you.
I prefer my early years on the wing. That was always good fun. But always tend to be a halfback or fullback.
Very good. Excellent. So you mentioned you learned a little bit off your grandparents in regards to small business and that. Was there an entrepreneurial streak in you? Did you notice anything early in your age at that point that you're like, actually, maybe one day I want to own my business?
Yeah, it was one of those things where you look back and you think back about, was there any particular moment in time? And probably the key one I remember was I was in year 10. And I can't remember specifically the class, but it was like a generalist type class where you might discuss a bit of economics and a few other subjects. And we had to go around the room, and you had to say what you wanted to be when you grow up, and which was always an interesting conversation in front of your peers. And I said I wanted to be a company director.
There
and it was just howled down with laughter in the room. And but I think that was probably the first time that what I thought, why did I say that? But I look back now and it was real.
Why did you say that? Like, what was it about being a company director that really appealed to you?
I think being the boss.
Yeah,
but running your own show. Yeah. Being in charge of your own destiny and seeing what my grandfathers had done. So I think it was probably come from that.
Yeah, I had a proud dad moment not so long ago. My kids had the same. It was like dress up. I got a 10 and a 12-year-old, two girls, 10 and 12-year-old, and it was dress up as what you want to be when you grow up, so to speak. And they both just went in jeans and a white T-shirt or whatever and had like this label on them that said entrepreneur. And I was like, how good's this? One of them just couldn't be bothered getting dressed up, but the other one was like, no, I want to be an entrepreneur. So where to from here? Where does the story of REDARC start from there and the leading up to the purchasing of it? I mean, I understand you're at BHP and ROH Wheels, and so let's learn a little bit about that.
Yeah. So look, I think the next key milestone was really leaving school and getting a cadetship at BHP over in Whyalla. So leaving town for the first time was for me a big challenge, even though it was 45, 50 kilometres away. It's not far, but going there and doing mechanical engineering and living independently and playing footy and
Yep.
I guess having a fun time. But doing a cadetship, which was a combination of hands-on as well as the theory. So I learned by doing as well, and quickly, I guess, showed some leadership talents there. And when I graduated, I was pretty much into an early stage leadership role at BHP. So
great.
that was really good. But I learnt some really key life lessons working there. And one as an engineer was that it's not my idea, it's our idea. And when I designed something for the factory and you have to go and implement it, I quickly learnt that unless you got the production team involved and asked their opinions and their advice, every idea would fail.
Yeah.
And as soon as I shared the concepts with them and asked them what do they think, then it's not my idea, it's their idea. And everything worked, because even if it wasn't 100%, they'd make it work for you.
100%.
So that was a really good lesson, and I had
So,
some good leaders.
the art of collaboration, right?
And
which
you
is
can't.
an amazing lesson.
Even though I was the engineer, and there was always that sort of status, from the production to engineering, but I quickly learned that actually that's not the way to do
These
things.
are the guys that they see it every day, right?
Yeah.
They see the front line, they see the actual mechanics in motion.
Yeah. So no, that I learned some really good lessons about being humble and working together and achieving outcomes.
Yeah, brilliant.
And then from there, I decided I actually wanted to study management, and I had some really good experiences being an engineer, but I thought I'd learnt enough to be able to, I guess, be dangerous and take the next step. So as a 25-year-old, I started thinking about what courses I would do, and I wanted to test myself. So I actually just did a grad dip by correspondence whilst I was working, just to see what I would be like. So I did a year of that and thought, that's not bad. So that was really just a tester.
Yeah.
I dropped that and then applied to do my MBA. And there was an interesting story around how I got to do that at BHP, because it was a big company at the time, nearly, I think, over 3,000 employees. This is, say, 1991.
Yep.
And I picked up the phone, and it was one of those old style phones, the black handle, and dial the numbers. And I
Takes
think
about 5 years to ring someone. Yeah.
Yeah, 100 was the general manager's number.
Yeah.
And that's a number you never called.
Yeah, okay.
But I called the number.
And you've just
and spoke
young
to,
and brazen. And
that's
just,
right.
Yeah.
Thought it took me a lot of courage to do it.
Yeah.
But when I did it, I spoke to the GM's secretary, Mr. Tarotha, who was the general manager, and spoke to his secretary and said, I'd like to make an appointment to see Mr. Tarotha. And she asked, what's it regarding? I said, look, I'm keen to do a Master of Business, and wanted to seek Mr. Tarotha's support.
Yeah, great.
So, I had a 30-minute meeting with him and explained to him why I wanted to do the course and why I needed BHP support, and he agreed, and I guess the rest is history. So I went off and did my MBA full-time down here in Adelaide at Adelaide Uni, and really loved it. I've never worked so hard in terms of study and treated it like a job.
Yeah, okay, great.
And really, I blitzed the course, but learnt a hell of a lot, and always chose subjects out of my comfort zone. So always all the marketing subjects, all the finance subjects, all the HR subjects, so that I could actually add to my toolkit.
Where did this ethic come from?
The work ethic certainly comes from my grandfather Hawker. Like I mentioned, those long hours that he'd work 7 days a week, and it was just
there was just no other way.
That's right. Yeah. So I just learnt through going up there and working that that's what you got to do. You got to do what it takes.
Yeah. So you said you were full time. Were you still working in the?
So I'd go back in the semester breaks and work.
Yeah. Okay.
Earn enough money to be able to survive for the next semester.
Okay.
So BHP paid for the course,
Yep.
and I had to fund my expenses.
Okay.
So I'd go back every semester break, work for a few weeks, or work over the summer holidays, and then come back again for next semester.
Ah, okay.
And,
so did you get paid during the?
No.
So that was it. It was just
purely
they held your spot.
They held my spot and paid the course fees, which at the time was
that's
$20,000, which
that's amazing.
was a fair bit of money back then.
Yeah, because you hear of it being done these days, where you do it part time and you still work through it. And
the difficulty being based in Whyalla.
Yeah, that's
had to
true.
come to Adelaide.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
so
there's no online in 1991.
Exactly.
Online
there wasn't any online. So I did that, and I guess really loved all those different subjects that I learnt, and particularly international finance and the international marketing as well. And then unfortunately, when I went back to BHP, there was quite a downturn in the economy. So it was 1992. Paul Keating made that famous quote of, the recession that we have to have.
Yep.
Banana Republic, these sorts of lines.
Yep.
And BHP let go about 1,000 employees over the next year or two.
Yeah, wow.
And so my manager told me what opportunities existed there, but sort of gave me a bit of a hint that, hey, if there was something greener on the other side of the fence, then, don't be afraid to have a look around. And so I snared a role at Arrowcrest here in Woodville and in Adelaide, and went in just as a project manager, project engineer, but within 18 months I was manufacturing manager, and then another 18 months I was general manager. So sort of
quick rise.
Very quick rise to running one arm of the business, which was called the aftermarket division.
Yeah, great. And hence where you might have learnt a lot of your
the fundamentals.
Fundamentals.
Yeah. So we distribution for wheels and tyres, obviously through independent tyre stores or through your big chains. And so REDARC's quite similar, in terms of selling to auto electricians and selling to large automotive distributors. So that there was some synergies there.
Yeah.
But electronics was something brand new, so that was a whole new challenge.
So where in this whole period, so you quick rise to general manager, you're now looking at the world beyond, and you start thinking to yourself, actually, what else is there? What is greener on the other side? And this company directorship must have popped back into your head again, and you go, actually, I'm going to go look for something to buy. Were you interested in starting your own? Because I know you obviously you ultimately bought REDARC off, and we'll go through that story. But were you interested in? Were you looking at that as well? No.
And I can say no fairly, forthrightly, because I'm not a startup guy.
Yeah. Okay.
I think I take my hat off to people that do a startup and make it successful.
Yeah.
I love taking an existing product and improving it. So that's why REDARC was appealing to me, because an existing business with some good fundamentals, but just needed some love and care.
Yeah. How do you know that you're not a startup guy? I think because it's really interesting. I started my business from zero, and it's bloody tough. And I'm almost in the other position where I go, actually, I think I'm the guy that does start it up because there's no rules.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that excites me. There's quite a popular podcast and entrepreneur and influencer in the US, and her name's Cody Sanchez, and her actual whole remit is no, like buying businesses is actually the way in which you can grow, because you buy something established, you essentially buy a community already or a network, and you go from there, and it's actually a smarter way to do business. How do you define that you're not a startup guy? Like what, and how would someone who's listening to you right now help identify themselves as where they sit in this?
Yeah, I guess it's looking at your own DNA, and I'm about continuous improvement. I still have ideas, but when you stand next to someone who's a multiple entrepreneur who started lots of different ventures, I mean they tend to be a different breed, and I guess I'm a bit more conservative. I still like to take risks, but I'm not prepared to risk everything. So I think that's a slight difference in mentality there, where if you're a multiple founder of businesses and you're able to do that, you've got no fear.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm sort of in between,
Yeah, it's interesting. I think because, let's get into the story. I mean, you went to, in 1997, you're on the hunt to buy.
Yes.
And what happens? Where does it go?
Yeah, so we started, so I had a conversation with my father-in-law, because I knew I couldn't afford to buy a business outright.
Yep.
And so Michelle's dad, Dennis, and her
so
mum,
Michelle's your wife?
Michelle, my wife.
Yep.
And and we'd been married a couple of years by then, 3 years, and we'd had our first child. I was working really long hours at ROH, but really loving it.
How many kids you got now?
Got 4 now.
4 now?
Yeah, so
girls, boys?
a boy and then 3 girls.
3 girls, very good.
So
how old are they now?
all in their 20s. So
Okay.
yeah, all past the high school stage and past university, which is great.
And you got the freedom back.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, so spoke to Michelle's dad, Dennis, and we agreed to go into partnership together, and worked together for 5 years. That was our handshake deal, and so that was December 1996, and we looked around for businesses all through that first half of 1997, and exhausted 40 odd opportunities that we looked at, walked through, say, 5 of them. And
What were you looking for? Like, what was the process of looking?
Yeah, so people ask me that, and I say it's like buying a house.
Yeah.
How many bedrooms do you want?
Yeah.
How much land size do you want? What size backyard? So with me, it was, I want a manufacturing company. I'd like if it had some quality accreditation or something about the some process control.
So you tick box items.
Yeah, so I had a list of items, and Dennis, again, he was a small business guy, so that was on the list. But we looked at lots of different things, and I guess that sort of kept my mind open to opportunities. But by May of '97, we'd exhausted what was out there, and thankfully one of the business brokers that we were dealing with, a gentleman called Horace Beeler, said, look, relax, I might have something coming up in a few months' time, I'll keep you posted, and that turned out to be REDARC. So we had a look at REDARC, we went through, met the team. Unfortunately, the founder had passed away, so
his name was
Bob Mackey.
Bob Mackey, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, so Bob's wife, Margaret, was running the business from afar, so she was living in Queensland.
Okay.
And she had some of the staff were running it day to day for her, and they all still work for us today.
Oh, wow.
Which is incredible.
It is.
So yeah, we walked through the company, put an offer in. We weren't the highest bidder, and I guess to Margaret's credit, she was looking for some owners that would keep the business in South Australia and grow the company and look after the team.
Yeah.
And whereas a corporate had the highest bid, she actually took less money to take our offer, which I thought was
keep Bob's vision going.
Pretty amazing. Yeah, exactly. So and I love sending Margaret, the occasional update to let her know that the company.
So she's still alive.
Still alive, and she wrote a.
So Bob must have been pretty young.
He would have. I guess he was probably passed away in his 50s.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So he was an inventor, electronics engineer. Come up with those early ideas.
Is that where the REDARC name comes from?
Yeah. So he started the company in 1979 in a house in Blackwood.
Yep.
Main road at Blackwood, and he developed an ignition system for a Porsche.
Oh wow.
And so he's into automotive and electronics.
Yep.
So he built this electronic ignition system, and the first arc or the first spark between the contacts was a red arc.
Okay.
And that's how we named the company.
So cool.
Yeah, so it's a good story. And we took control of the business late September 1997.
So let's go back to your I'm not a startup guy, right? Because you said that, you calculated risks, and we'll go into some of those risks that you decided to take throughout the REDARC growth. But you, from a family perspective, essentially have taken a risk. From my understanding, to buy the business, you had to take out a mortgage and sell a car. And that's a big risk on your own personal life. I think from a startup perspective, I know when I started this, I put no money in. I just went out and sold. Yes, I was earning next to nothing at the start, but then if I just figured I could sell, so I would just eventually earn more wage.
Look, I guess REDARC had some assets.
Yeah.
Small amount of assets. We had some staff and we had a brand. So we had some foundation that I could build on, and so I guess it was a big risk, and for Dennis and I, we knew nothing about electronics. So it was even like, are you crazy?
Yeah.
People, I'm sure they must have thought that we'd lost it.
No.
But
how hard could it be?
Yeah, it's manufacturing.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, I don't know. I guess it was just one of those things where I felt comfortable. In doing that, rather than I certainly come up with some business ideas. Yeah. But I look back and think, oh, thank God. Thank God I didn't do that.
The bullet. Did Michelle? What was her role in all this as well?
Oh, looking after the baby. Then number 2 was happening right at. So Emma was born in 1997, so it was pretty full on at home. She was a nurse in the cardiac ward at Royal Adelaide. So she had to take time off to look after the kids. So I guess my job was to make sure this business was successful. Yeah,
you can put some food on the table.
That's right.
Yeah, and that. So when you said I'm not willing to take risk, I just see risk after risk in regards to what you did anyway. I think they're very closely correlated.
Look, I'm sure they are, but there is definitely a difference, though.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how you sort of have the DNA of a person who's able to do startups versus someone who's a builder. and I class myself as a builder.
As a builder.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's actually a really powerful lesson. And there's often, even in my own team, I've got some of the smart, like these people in my team are the smarter, by far and away smarter than me.
Yes.
But they'll be the first to admit that they're not an entrepreneur. They're more of an intrapreneur.
Sure.
They're happy to work within a business and grow and create and innovate within a business, right? And I think it's a worthwhile lesson for anyone who's listening in here now is actually understanding where their strengths lay.
Yeah.
And pursuing that.
And, it's interesting. I would get a phone call almost a week from people that have got an idea, want to start a business, and they think, oh, Anthony's done it. Let's have a chat to him, get some advice. And so often there might be a great idea, but it's, do they have a customer willing to pay for it?
Yeah.
Have they pressure tested that idea? How big's the market? There's a whole host of questions because otherwise you'll lose your shirt. And, and that's not a good ending.
I don't think the world's short of any of ideas.
Yeah.
It's the ability to actually create something and execute. Yeah,
exactly.
100%. So what happens? What early stages, where are you at? You and 8 people. Did you think that it could be this 400 plus global business? Like what was your vision at that point?
Look, I think when we first met with our team and gave them a bit of a briefing about what the future might hold, I think we said, look, this company could be 20 people.
Yeah.
We can
double the size.
And actually, really, that was about just giving them the confidence that their jobs were, there was job security and we'd back them.
Yeah, great.
But the first 3 years actually were really tough times because with Bob sort of dying a couple of years before, him being the inventor, the technology and the products, it's a continuous process of improving the technology, and with that gap of a few years and no investment in R&D, the products were getting tired, warranty was on the way up. The company wasn't good at customer service, so it was when there was a problem, it wasn't REDARC's problem, it was a customer's problem, and that's not a good way to create customers.
No.
So we had a whole host of things to fix, and then within a few months we identified that we needed to do a recall on one of our products.
Oh, ouch.
And that could have been company ending.
Yeah.
But we took our medicine and really worked hard by getting out in front of the customers and saying, look, we apologise for this inconvenience, but we will fix it and we will support you. And so we just went.
What was the product at that point?
So this stage, the main product line was what was called a voltage converter.
Yeah.
And that would be bolted onto European and Japanese trucks.
Yep.
And European and Japanese trucks run 2 batteries or a 24-volt electrical system.
Yep.
And when you want to run accessories such as trailer lights or a radio, they're 12 volts. So you need some way of reducing the voltage down. So REDARC made pretty much the only voltage reducer on the market.
Yeah, wow.
But one of the products had some reliability issues, and actually it turned out it wasn't a design fault. It was actually a component that was spec'd incorrectly. So the actual markings in the catalogue didn't match the rating of the product. So when our people used that, it was actually underrated.
Oh, wow.
And so it was failing prematurely. So it was a legitimate mistake. But again, it
was a mistake.
It was a mistake.
And
the products were failing.
The buck stops with you and the brand, right? Yeah.
And we had to fix it.
That's an amazing. So then where does the growth start? What does that look like? And did you have any idea what you were doing? I think that's a critical question. It's like understanding how do I actually start to scale this would take many years to actually pull together.
Yeah, probably 3 years to say that we got back to a level playing field where we started to see some growth, and we'd put on an extra 2 employees. So that. And I guess we just
still the same
product. All we did,
same people though. And
same people.
No one left.
No one left.
Yeah, great.
It was really just about selling more of existing products to more customers. And so we only had 1 truck brand at the time, and by early 2000s we were selling to every truck brand on the market in Australia. So just really focusing on what we had because that's all we could sell.
Yeah.
And then I guess that led then to some significant planning about what's the future hold. So the first step was in the year 2000, sitting down with our team and just defining what we stood for, what's our mission, what's our vision, our values, defining how the culture was, So we did that in the year 2000, and then
So that was one of your key milestones that you.
It is,
You've
yeah.
said to me previous, and I'm keen to go through these 5.
Sure.
You've said you've
Yep.
earmarked 5 key milestones that
Yes.
we can go through. So this was number. So setting vision, values, and your mission statement was was the first key milestone.
first key one.
And that was done in year 2000, 3
Yeah.
years after.
That's right.
What made you think that was so important? I mean, it really is, and we know it is. But
Yeah.
at that time, when you're
Well, I
small
think-
10-person business, what makes you think, I need to set some strategy here?
I think we started to get a bit of clear air in terms of being able to think strategically,
Yep.
beyond the business. I was still in the business,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
at least have time to think on the
Yeah.
business. And I guess being studied my master of business
Yeah.
and being I love executing what I've learnt, and so I knew this is good practice to
Yeah.
actually define these things to start with. And it was only a one pager. It was nothing. There was no sort of major
Strategy on a page.
strategy on a page.
That's all you need.
Yeah, and it just set the vision for the future.
And within that was the fanatical customer experience born? Is that where that
Really, that
comes
started from day one.
Day one?
It
Okay.
had to start from day one because we had a competitor that was trying to chop us out of the market, and we had these problems. So we had to be fanatical about customer service back then, and so really Dennis's job in those early years was to get out in the field, go visiting customers all around Australia. I'd be at home base making sure that the manufacturing and the day-to-day was running effectively, and so we got that under control. And then then the next major step was, okay, well, we've only got a very few products. What else are we going to do? And that was probably the next major milestone, was setting up an R&D team, which we did in 2002. So we hired our first engineer and started to investing into developing new product, and that really has been super successful for us, and really a core part of our business today is our investment in R&D.
Can I sort of circle on the 2 milestones here? So milestone 1, vision, value, strategy, the whole kit and caboodle. Was the R&D investment part of that strategy? Is that what you said? Oh, for us, I need to grow. Like, how far did you look ahead?
We looked 5 years.
5 years?
Yeah. So the first strategy on page was a
5-year plan.
in 2000 to what the business looked like in 2005.
And was that centered around growth and diversification and new products and everything? Was it just a pretty basic add on to what we?
No, it was certainly centered around growth.
Yeah.
And probably still concentrating on similar markets, but developing some new product. And actually, we had, like any good plan, it has to change. It can't be, once you've written it, it's not locked in stone.
No, it's got to be fluid.
We went through a recession in 2002, which was, just trying to think, whether it was the first internet bubble around that time. And so trucking is very much follows the economy, and in fact, it's slightly ahead. So our trucking customers started to slow down, and I just felt that we needed something new to sell. And I read an article by Tom Peters about the number of baby boomers retiring in the next 25 years.
Yep.
And so it was from 2000 to 2025, and it was some extraordinary number per minute in the Western world.
Yeah, wow.
I thought, wow, if we can get a piece of that market, wouldn't that be good? So thankfully, we were able to go into an adjacent sector, which was in that caravan, RV, SUV side of the market.
Yep.
We designed a product that suited that industry, and it was super successful, and still a very successful product today for us.
Yeah, that's fabulous. Okay, so when we talk about the R&D space, so the strategy was, this is our growth plan. Yep. And then in 2002, it was the revisiting of that strategy and going, actually, here's a market in which we believe we can compete in and really excel in, and therefore we're going to invest R&D into that.
Yeah, that's right. So setting up that R&D team and defining, I guess, how much could we afford to invest. And part of that analysis, I just sort of did a desktop analysis of what world's best companies were investing in R&D as a percentage of their total sales. Yep. And then, so identified that.
And what was that?
Well, good companies were spending about 3.5. Really good companies were spending about 7.
Yeah. And what did you decide?
Well, actually, I did a little bit of finance. I'm dangerous, but I did my own spreadsheet and worked out, top line sales, operating costs, net profit, gross profit, and then expenses, and working out my net profit, which will then give me free cash to reinvest.
Yeah.
So I did a bit of a rolling spreadsheet and worked out that if I could invest 15% in R&D, if we did that as a company philosophy, we would have enough, and we're able to achieve 20% growth per annum. We would have enough free cash to make that a continuous cycle.
Yeah.
And so, again, it was a very rough spreadsheet.
But it's a bold move.
Yeah.
Especially for a small business. And, if there's anything I know about small business, cash flow is always one thing that...
and of course it wasn't about taking dividends, wasn't about taking a high salary. It was about reinvesting everything back into the company.
Was Dennis still around?
So Dennis, we had that 5-year plan. So
Yep.
Michelle and I bought Dennis and Joan's shares out in 2002.
So it was after that point that you said...
Pretty much that line
Yep.
was when we decided to do that 15% investment.
So you didn't have dividends to pay, so you could put it back into...
I still had to pay Dennis out, but
no doubt. But
I was able to factor that in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which was
exactly.
great. 15%. So what's your advice now to anyone who is in the same sort of position? Like, I know I am in that position where I'm like, we've got so much potential to invest. Cash is king. The ability to, I guess, growth, cash, R&D, they all intertwine and sometimes get in the way of each other.
Yes.
What's your advice to those who are trying to manage that world?
I think the key thing is, what's your key differentiator? What's the key value proposition you're going to offer your customers? And so, for us, it was about technology, about having the best product.
Yeah.
And so if that's the number one differentiator, other than outstanding customer service, what do we stand for? So I think that really made the decision quite clear that the priority had to be to invest in R&D to create great product, which then enabled us to expand into new markets as well, both adjacent but also geographic markets. So I think that's the key, to anyone in business, is to look at, how does that contribute to your strategy, and what are the non-negotiables? So for me, the non-negotiable was R&D investment.
Yeah, I love it. I read something that I'm quoting you right now. Innovation is just a business buzzword without steadfast financial commitment to investing in your people, process, and intellectual property. That it seems like, it's wise words, right? Like the idea of investing in people, investing in the growth of your tech and your assets, and then not to mention your IP. It makes sense, but it's difficult. It really is difficult.
It is.
How do we navigate? How do we teach those to navigate through that period?
Yeah, I think the reason I said that was that, when I say about buzzwords and innovation, because you can go and spend on a new bit of kit, or you can allocate a certain amount of money to a project. But I think real innovation actually comes from those 1%ers that you do as a team every day. So improving your people's, best people in the world. Yeah. Looking at how you improve your processes. Again, incrementally improving product, incrementally improving your service. If you do that every day and add it up over a year, you get real innovation.
That's the Kaizen philosophy, the Toyota philosophy, isn't it? Yeah. Is that what you've based it on, or?
Well, not particularly, but absolutely, that's certainly part of it.
I love it. So, relentless innovation is now core to REDARC, right? And it's deeply entrenched in the company culture. And we'll talk about one of your key milestones being the culture in a second. But I'm interested in what you see as successful R&D. Like you said, innovation, you can just go here, but what is actual successful R&D, and how do you actually focus on something that's going to move the dial, that's going to be best for the customer, be best for our team, the growth, the profits, whatever, you name it?
Yep. So I think, like I said, when I have those people approach me with ideas, and the first question I ask them is, have you tested it with a customer? Does someone actually want to buy it? So to me, real innovation is solving customer problems. Yeah. Even problems that they don't know that they've got. So, the customer might say, look, here's an issue I'm facing, and then you go and talk to a multitude of customers and, they're actually all facing a similar type of issue. If we can solve that, there's a great market potential for us. So for us, it's really in the part of that ideation process is looking at, how many customers have this problem? If we can solve that, how successful would that investment be? And that's the start of the process, is in defining that really, really well up front, and defining what's the customer specification, and then how do you translate that into either a service or a product.
Yeah, brilliant. So over the years, you have developed some amazing innovations, gone out to the market, and been copied almost. There's a couple of copycats out there in the market and people stealing intellectual property. How have you dealt with that? I mean, that's scary in its own right, if, because there's so many different things.
It's very frustrating, because obviously if you're investing all that money and then someone takes the easy road to reverse engineer it and copy it, then it aggravates you. But I guess in the early years, because we never had a lot of cash and it was all being reinvested, it was basically about speed and no protection. Yeah. Whereas as we started to get a bit bigger in the mid to late 2000s, then it really became an IP strategy. So trademarks, patents, trade secrets.
Before you went out.
All this was done as part of the process before we went to market. So, and that's really helped us protect, and so we've had a couple of cases where we've had to seek advice and actually challenge other organisations, and we've been held in good stead because we've got that protection in place.
Yeah, fabulous. So your recommendation for anyone who's looking to do that would be to make sure you have those checks and balances from day one, even if cash is not there?
No, look, we did it without cash.
Yeah.
So again, it's
take the punt.
Still get on with it.
Yeah.
But look at how you can protect it.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's even as simple as if you're using a word and you use it often enough, and you can prove that you're doing that, then then you can actually, there's some legal argument there.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'm not a legal expert.
No.
But it's about, I guess, what are the key things that your company uses all the time. And so I'd say there's ways around it until you can afford it. But once you can afford it, definitely protect it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, great lesson. So then next milestone, the advisory board, independent advisory board, was one thing that you think was really pivotal in your trajectory at REDARC.
Yeah, so there was actually one that came just before that.
Okay.
But the advisory board came out of it.
Okay.
So they're really hand in hand. And so the next major step was we had moved location a couple of times, and I guess my passion for manufacturing and creating, our own facilities here in South Australia. So we looked at how can we build our own home, because moving manufacturing plants is not easy, and putting a manufacturing plant in an existing building means there's compromise, because it's never the right layout. So I thought if we could buy some land and design our own building and actually design the process and then make the building go around it, wouldn't that be great? Yeah. And so it was to look at establishing a home in the south, and then out of that was, I guess, came a design for a building which was around $5 million in capital expenditure, even more. And our company revenue at the time was around $5 million. Yeah. And I thought, this is a pretty dangerous strategy. If we're about to invest this much money in land and buildings on that revenue, and I need to get good advice. So from that, in late '95, I looked to set up an independent advisory board. Okay. And there's a couple of things there, because the first thing is, as a CEO, I said I like being in business because I'm the boss. Yeah.
Now you're answering to people.
As an independent advisory board, you have advisors that you answer to, and you seek their advice. And if you don't listen, then why would they want to stick around?
Yeah, correct.
So it was sort of getting my head around, getting comfortable that I was prepared to share and seek advice and listen and actually implement. So I became, I guess, got myself in a position where that was a reality in late 2005.
How long did it take you to, I guess, the word I'm looking for, welcome the advice? I mean, there's a school of thought that you get advice from a bunch of people and you mold it into what you think is best for the company, right? And that's ultimately what the advisory board's for. But at the start of any sort of advisory board, it's normally one or two people, and you're not getting that breadth of knowledge from all different aspects and perspectives. So how did you manage and mold yourself into going, okay, well, no, like I know best versus they know best versus what's best for company?
Look, pretty much from day one.
Yeah, okay.
Because I think I went into it with the right attitude. I was willing to accept advice, and I have a belief: if you ask for advice, and the person that you're asking you trust and you admire, and the fact that you've taken the time to ask them, take the advice
Yep.
and use it.
Yep.
And so, and obviously running a business, we're smart enough to, I guess, have a pretty good idea which direction we want to go, but you want to pressure test that. And so, I think
it makes sense.
just having that right
What's the
attitude.
point of an advisory board if you're just going to go and do off what you want to do anyway?
They won't stick around.
Yeah, correct.
And so I think I went in there with the right attitude, that I was prepared to accept their advice, even if they told me I was wrong.
Yep.
But it never turned out like that. It was actually, really good discussions, and it was more about guidance and a slight change of direction or a slight tweak to your idea. But it was, the core of it was always pretty good.
Yeah, great. So the technology centre and the advisory board come together. They're two critical milestones. So when did you move into the? So
we moved in August 2007, and we had this. It was just an amazing facility. I love the fact that we had a leased facility before. We just turned the key on that building, and we pretty much auctioned. Everything was so old. We just auctioned all of that stuff off.
There you go.
And everything in the new building was brand new and state of the art, and laid out whole new processes. So it was a fair bit of change management to get people to become accustomed to the new way of manufacturing, all new layouts.
Yeah.
And just a simple thing, when we closed the door on the old building to moving into the new building, we went a smoke-free policy.
Yeah.
Which now sounds weird.
No,
but back then it was a big thing. So we gave everyone 12 months notice. Hey, when we go to the new facility, it's going to be a smoke-free zone.
How was that taken?
We thought we were going to lose quite a few people, but we might have lost one.
Yeah. What made that? Why did you make that decision?
I think because we started to have a lot more of an approach about health and well-being of our employees, and I guess that was just one of those philosophies that we should be implementing this.
We want healthy people working here.
Exactly. So we didn't say you couldn't, but we said, look, we'll fund your patches or whatever you need to help kick the habit. And we didn't say you couldn't smoke at all. They could step out, but they had to step outside the boundary of the property to go smoke.
Yeah. Was there a line up out the side of the front?
Look, we had a few little discussions about where they could do it, because out the front gate's not a good look.
No.
But I guess I use that example because there was a lot of change that we went through.
Yeah, no doubt.
It was such an exciting time to move into this new facility. Yeah.
How did the overall change management piece go for you? Did it work well?
It did. It took it. I think we can talk for hours on change management, but the big thing, communication is such a big thing.
Yeah, without doubt.
I guess we were when we were developing the factory, when it was still in construction, all of our employees would go there, and we had one night, I remember having champagne on the site, watching the state of the process. And so we're always taking our people over there to see as it changed and get accustomed to it. So when we got there, it was like, well, this is home. Yeah. There was no sort of shock factor. So, and people were great. They were willing to take it up and I guess let's work a new way.
Which is great. I think with my business, SynergyIQ, we are obviously experts in change management. So we do a lot of our own research, which is why I'm interested in the R&D stuff and the intellectual property stuff, because what we're doing is groundbreaking, we believe. But what we've learned through that whole process is the art of sense making is what helps organisations move their people from the awareness that there's going to be a change to actually desiring the change, right?
Yes.
And so by you taking these people to site and working with them and giving them time to learn and giving them time to understand, not to mention with the fact that they are able to make sense that this is a really positive step in the future of REDARC and the growth of REDARC, obviously was really beneficial in the change piece that you went through.
Yeah, people have got to have that attitude of not being happy with the status quo.
Correct.
There's always got to be a better way, and we'll find it. Those incremental little improvements, all these things. I think, if you want things to stay as they are, then things have to change. Yeah. So if we can build that mindset with our people, that actually change is good. Yeah. The more we're changing, the better the environment, the better the company, the more salary we earn, the more bonuses we pay. It's a win-win for everybody.
Without doubt. I think positioning it in a positive light is, people are always going to look at it from the what's in it for me approach. And I think as leaders, if we can understand that our job is actually to help our people make sense of change and help them understand the process that they're about to embark on, be as open and honest and as transparent as possible.
Absolutely.
Then it makes change much easier.
Yeah.
If we're holding things to our chest and saying, sorry, you're not allowed to talk about this. The one thing that you hear a lot is whenever you go through a change or there's a restructure, it's like, oh, make sure you don't say anything. But the number one way people communicate is or want to express emotion and feeling is through communication. And so by saying, oh, you're not allowed to say anything, you're actually stifling their ability to make sense of what's happening and percolate on it and understand it. So
I got a great little example, actually. The first time REDARC ever implemented a robot.
Yep.
And you can imagine in a manufacturing business, a robot to manufacturing people could be seen as job limiting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Career limiting.
Yeah, correct. Automation.
Exactly. So our engineers at the time we agreed to purchase this robot or robots and build this new cell, and they wanted to do it in a workshop away from everybody. I said, no. We want to put this right in the middle of the factory where all of our staff can see you guys working on the robots and on the cell, because it's all part of that acclimatization process and becoming that, it's nothing to be afraid of.
Yeah.
This is actually good for the company because if we can create better jobs for you and do work on smarter things rather than doing repetitive, mundane tasks, it's actually a win-win. So,
correct.
It's just one example of, as you say, being transparent and honest and open.
100%. That's an amazing example because the moving it to another area is essentially code for this will take your job,
exactly.
Right? And it just doesn't make sense. Whereas actually, no, what we want to do is embrace this because, like you said, we don't need the turner and fitters anymore. We need people to work on higher level duties that can make us grow quicker.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think that's the thing of AI at the moment. Everyone's worried about AI and how it's going to take over jobs. And we use AI extensively in here because it's like, why would I read this whole article or why wouldn't I just get the key points that I need out of it? Like AI for me forms my own executive summary, saves me time, and I move forward.
You still
quicker.
have to put Daniel's flavour and Daniel's communication. If you start using words that Daniel doesn't use, people are going to say that's not you.
Yeah, exactly.
So
there's no authenticity there.
Such a great, exactly. Such a great foundation to build on and then use your own creativity.
Yeah, 100%. So that takes us then to the milestone 4, which is what we've kind of talked about in all this, which is the team culture aspect, where you really were focusing on how to build an amazing culture. Where did that start from, and why was that instrumental in the growth for you guys? It makes sense, but people listening in would be keen to hear that.
Yeah, well, you asked me right at the start what I learned from sport.
Yep.
And teamwork. And the fact is, we all got to have the same belief.
Yep.
We got to share the same values if we want to be successful together. Create a harmonious working environment. So, we, I guess, realised that we needed to build that in our company if we wanted to be globally successful. We just didn't want to be successful in Adelaide or in South Australia. How do we work to be a global business? So I just felt that we had to set those building blocks, which we did in the year 2000, and then there's various iterations of that over time. Examples I can talk about. So in 2012, through our employee surveys that we were running year on year at the time, it came out that sustainability and care for the environment was something that our employees were starting to really value.
Yep.
And so we actually then added a new value to our company around sustainability, and that was in 2012. So our values stayed the same from 2000 to 2012, and then we fast forward 2024. We've just done a full refresh of all of our values.
Yep.
And how that came about was that we set up a new strategy in 2022. And there's a bit of a story there, but if I can just digress just a moment, 6 of our key executives went off-site for 4 months to work on a 10-year strategy for the business. We felt if we were going to really
5 days a week off-site for
5 days a week, no involvement with the day-to-day.
Yeah, wow.
So there was some really good benefits. The first one is they had an environment where they could think and focus and research because we knew we needed something different about our strategy to go the next step, become truly global. And then secondly, it gave a great opportunity for the people that work for them to step up.
Yeah.
And we promoted the second in charges to be acting managers in that time. So it gave them a real taste for running their part of the company.
That's amazing.
So it was a great leadership training program as well. But through that process, I wanted to give some reality, because it's easy to say, well, theoretically, let's work on a new strategy, but how do we pressure test it? So we looked around Australia and chose 5 independent experts who had no relationship with REDARC, and I wanted quite a variety. So, we had a leading not-for-profit founder.
Yep.
We had someone from the caravan industry, obviously, because it was industry related. And we had a really successful entrepreneur who'd grown a global business, a really good finance person.
Yep.
And so we chose these people with diverse backgrounds. I approached them and said, look, would you be prepared to sit on a Shark Tank for our leadership team to present our new strategy? And then all of the key people that had stepped up in new roles in the company were part of the audience.
Yeah, wow.
And our team had to present the strategy to these sharks, and it was outstanding. We did it at the Crown Plaza here in the city.
That's so good.
It was an outstanding afternoon, but one of the key pieces of feedback that we got out of that process was we hadn't paid enough attention to culture and strategy, culture and values in our new strategy. What are the changes in culture and values or the tweaks that you needed to be hungry to be globally successful? And so from that feedback, we then sat down and said, right, let's work as a leadership team on what are the new behaviours that we need. Are the existing values suitable? So we went through this refresh program. We went off, did a couple of off-sites, just a lot of word, what are the key words that describe REDARC, and looked at our existing values, and we actually were able to bring our values back to four new values, which I think we've done a great job at capturing what's the essence of REDARC in terms of relentless innovation, community impact and environment, customer first, and I'll say relentless innovation. So coming up with this refresh, and then we then went out in small groups with our company and presented it to our company. But rather than a leadership, here's our new values and this is what you're going to live by, we actually asked like a focus group within the company who came together, gave us their thoughts, and then they actually went and presented it to the rest of the business. And they were able to give lived examples of how the new values actually are important and how we see that in the company. So, it was really well embraced.
So this was in 2012 that you did?
This was in
the
2024, 2 weeks ago.
Oh, 2 weeks ago you did this. So
yes.
Because it's such an innovative idea. Where did you come up with these ideas of getting Shark Tank, and how did you?
Look, it's always a gem that comes from talking with somebody.
Yeah.
And so,
because I've not heard of that before. Again, so cool.
I think a business, you can not so much get in a rut, but you get involved in the day to day, and how do you actually lift yourself up to say that we actually want to do something really new and inventive and come up with something that's going to take the company forward. And so it was just like we just need to give our key execs some free time to be able to think and really research the market. There's a lot of technological change going on at the moment with introduction of EVs and electrification. And so
what does research the market look like? Is it getting out there, speaking?
It's speaking. It's, again, there's a whole, 1,000,001 reports that you can download or pay for to get information about markets and opportunities and market size. Yeah. So it's pressure testing your ideas. That's really what it's about. But also defining the road that you're going to travel down, because there's various forks in the road, there's various opportunities, but where's the key path that you want to follow? Did
they pull their teams in through that process as well
did.
Collaborate with them? Yeah, so it wasn't just a sole thing that they did.
No, so the aim was they could talk to anyone in the company and bring them in for specialist activities, which they did. They could also ask, we could go and talk to anyone else outside the business and get them in and do presentations. So it was a very collaborative exercise, but they were just based down at Tonsley in a pod down there, with plenty of time just to think and have clarity around what they're doing.
I know this was done 2 weeks ago. Culture's been on the front of your mind for many years though now. What benefits have you seen? I mean the business growth and the culture. I walked into your office and you took down at Lonsdale there, and you took me around, and it's an amazing site. So if you do tours or anything like that, I recommend anyone to go and have a look at it. But you could just feel everyone was connected. You know, even just walking through the halls and seeing the notices on the walls and the values up on the wall, and just the way people sort of held themselves, you could feel it. I remember I left REDARC feeling very excited. In fact, some of the things that you and I spoke about that day, I've gone and implemented into my own business. The email. I know that this is a great leadership lesson. One thing that I picked up from you was the email that you send out to the company every Sunday night. Can you explain that to those listening in? Why and where did that idea come from, and why it's so important? Because for me, I feel like it's really therapeutic for me as well, sort of looking back at the week and understanding what's going on, but it's giving the feedback I get from the team is actually, Dan, it's really good to hear what you think every single week as well.
Yeah, so I was invited by EY to attend the World Entrepreneur of the Year event in Monaco.
Yeah.
This was about 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. And I always remember the speech that the winner, and it was
Who was the winner?
An American guy, and I should have researched his
No,
name.
that's right.
I've forgotten his name, but he basically had an IoT internet-based business that you could put sensors on objects and then through satellites, even like on an oil field, if you could detect how many motions that an oil pump or whatever the name of that device is that goes up and down pumping oil, if you could put a sensor on every one around the globe and then actually look at the movements of those pumps, you could detect how much oil is being produced in the world, and you could forecast the price.
Yeah, wow.
So his name was Brad, but he said, "Oh, I want to pay something forward." He said, he was told by one of his mentors about he should write an email every Sunday night to his team. He never told us what to write about, but he just said, look, he writes an email every Sunday night to his team to talk about what's happening in the business or what's happening in the environment, what's happening, just what's the thought bubble he might have. Well, that's a pretty interesting concept. So from the day I got back, the Sunday, say 4 or 5 years ago, I've never missed a Sunday night sending an email to my team wherever I am around the globe. Yeah, I write a Sunday night email and I ask, obviously ask people to contribute. Yep. I always want to put my own thoughts in there, but if there's good news or
absolutely.
something happening, we get contributions from the business. A Bravo Awards, highlighting someone living the behaviours or the culture we want to reinforce in the business. Any things like that, even babies or birthdays, milestones, things like that, without it sort of becoming a newsletter. It's got to stay relevant that people actually want to read it. Yeah, and I always get good feedback from the team, and I guess the key then is to make it interesting. And as a CEO, put something in there that maybe no one's heard, because then it actually makes people want to read it. Yeah. So I do that every week.
It's phenomenal. How much time do you spend on that every week?
Look, it varies, but it could be as much as 5 hours.
Yeah, it's a long.
It's
a big. I've found even in my daughters train on the weekends for basketball. Yes, they train on Sundays, and that's my time. I just sit in front of the laptop. They train for an hour and a half each, and then sort of one, and then the next one, and then that's 3 hours, and I've had that. I've written that, but it takes its time, and
it does.
I get asked, and in fact, Gabriella asked me this morning on it, saying, "Aren't you concerned about not spending time with your family on the Sundays, or this, that, the other?" And so, what's your answer to that?
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's there's a challenge, a time perspective, but so I guess it's during the week. If you think of something, write it down, so that over the weekend you're not having to start from scratch. So that's the key, is to build the core of it through the week, so that when it comes to the weekend, it's just a bit more fine tuning. But even then, I say that, but always spend a couple of hours. So try to find those times of the day where I try and do it on Sunday night or early Sunday morning. If we wake up early, get up and work on it, so that it's not, you're not taking away from family time.
Yeah, it becomes routine in a way.
It does.
I send the email to my wife as well. I BCC her, right? Yeah, she's part of the business anyway, but I BCC her so she reads it. So she understands, and it's actually helped her understanding of it, going, actually, this is really good and this is important. So if you take the time that you need, which is,
Well, the one thing, on a Monday morning, I always put some personal stuff in there, because people want to know, what did you do on the weekend, or
100%.
What's different this last week for you personally. And so there's always something I include of a personal story. It might be a sad story. Hopefully it's a good story.
Yeah.
But make something personal. So then I always find on the Monday, people, when you walk past them in the corridor or at the coffee machine, people have got a talking point.
It's
say,
great.
I saw you were running down at Glenelg on Sunday.
Yeah.
The weather was magnificent. I was having a swim, and gee, it was fun. It's a talking point.
It is. It's fantastic. So the last milestone. Let's get back to these milestones, because we could talk about culture all day, and I do actually just want to finish off with, was so amazed at the culture of REDARC, and just being in there for the hour or so that I was there. It wasn't very long, and even just hearing you talk about it, your passion behind it, the way in which you talk about the investment in your people. From my understanding, is that you actually invest all into their study and their growth and their development, and you pump a lot of time, effort, and dollars into their growth, which is, I think, amazing. So kudos to you and the team. And if anyone's looking for work, REDARC would be an amazing company to join. So the milestone number 5, diversification of your strategy. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so that came out of probably a 2017 strategy between 5 years from 2017 to 2022, looking at de-risking our business in respect that all of our key business was in Australia and most of it was in the automotive industry. So in 2016, the federal government released a white paper around defence expenditure, and it was a pretty positive story around the government investing in defence in future years. And so I thought, well, we could leverage our existing intellectual property around power technology and power systems into the defence applications. Yep. So we set up a new entity, REDARC Defence and Space, back then, and there's about 25 people full-time in that business today, and it's a successful part of our business, a standalone successful part, but very much interrelated to the core mothership, if you like, in terms of taking that intellectual property, hardening it, testing it for defence applications, solving the defence fighters' problems. So that was one area of diversification, and the second one was geographic expansion, so geographic diversification. So we looked at how we would make United States or North America our number one growth initiative. And so, we set up REDARC Corporation USA, and we've got 12 full-time employees over there, a really good team. And there's this love of travelling and exploring in the United States, like here in Australia with 4x4ing and going out in the outback. So our products are tested in the worst extremes in whether it be the Simpson or to Cape York or somewhere in the Kimberley. And Americans are actually behind the trend. So we've been, as Australians, we've been travelling into the outback and exploring since the 70s. Yeah. Leyland Brothers on TV. Yeah. Whereas the US, it's a bit more of a new phenomenon, and they call it overlanding. Yeah. They used to be called boondocking, which is probably not the nicest term. No. But now it's got this sexy overlanding title, and they've actually now crafted a whole new industry around overlanding. Yeah, wow. So we saw that we had great opportunity to expand into the US, and so we've been focusing on that overlanding market, the RV, the caravan markets as well, and taking our Australian hardened products and selling them there. And the great thing is that a lot of people in the US are familiar with our brand because they see YouTube or they see social media, they love our vehicles, and they want to replicate that in the US. So whilst we've still had to work hard on our marketing and developing our brand, we've had a good level of acceptance because people say, oh, we love REDARC products. We see how they're used in Australia, and we just want to do that here.
That's so cool.
So it's sort of a couple of the key elements around our diversification, and it's just helped, spread our risks, but also create new markets, new opportunities, and we want to grow at 20% per annum. So we've got to keep looking at new opportunities. And when we invest so much in R&D, how do you maximise that investment? So sell it in other countries, sell it in adjacent markets. Yeah,
that's amazing. Do you think the manufacturing will always stay here though?
Look,
because as that grows, there's no way. I mean, America's huge.
It is, yeah. So look, I'm not blind to the opportunity of having offshore operations for sure. Yeah. But I think creating the core IP here in Australia is important and protecting that here. So, look, I'd like to think that we'll keep doing that here for many, many years to come. But again, sure, we'll have to have some form of
I'm just talking
assembly
purely from population point of view. There's
exactly,
330 million people, and that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Where we in South Australia are not going to be able to manage the size and growth of that you could potentially see in the US
That's right.
and
So,
Europe.
look, we'll certainly set up a base and have some form of assembly or some form of manufacturing operation in the US. But I still see massive opportunity to expand our manufacturing here.
Oh, without doubt.
Yeah,
as you continue to grow, which is great. 20%. Why that number? Is that just something that you?
Well, that was that spreadsheet. Remember the spreadsheet back in the early 2000s when I looked at.
So that's just been your number every year, 20% every year.
And we've been able to do that for around on average 15 years.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, without fail.
Have you seen greater than 20%?
Many years.
Yeah. So the target is 20, but.
Yeah, look, and again, it's an average.
Yeah,
there's some years where the economy is just horrible. And just maintaining your revenues is a challenge. So sure, it can't be every single year, but on average, you want that to be the 20%. Number.
How do you feel as a founder and a CEO in the years that you break even or even losing?
Oh, look, I think it's about then inwardly looking and saying what do we need to do differently? How do we need to change?
But if it's a market condition, do you?
Yeah, no, I think there's always ways around it.
Opportunity.
Yeah, and again, if it might mean that you're too reliant on one particular sector.
Yeah.
So again, it comes back to looking at your strategy and saying, well, what do we need to do to I guess maintain the foundation of the business without losing money or without going backwards.
What does the future of REDARC look like in your eyes when you've cast your vision now, your 10-year, and based on your strategy that you've
global domination?
Yeah,
that's the strategy.
Nothing else.
I think just keep that REDARC brand, the brand recognition, brand growth. So it's really about, I guess, achieving that same success that we've had in Australia, in the United States, to the point where our North American business is actually larger than our Australian business. That's the 10-year goal. Yeah. And the same opportunities exist in Europe, in Middle East, South Africa. So there's no shortage of new market opportunities that we're working on. But again, you've got to have some focus and be able to prioritise. So North America is number one.
Yeah, brilliant. I want to just quickly touch back on your innovation world. And obviously with the strategy in which you're going, 20% growth, everything that you've said sort of feeds into this question. So relentless innovation is your approach, and that's what you said was one of your values. This means constant change, right? And we touched on change a little bit earlier, but I wouldn't mind just elaborating on that, given that that's what I do. That's what this whole podcast is sort of based on. How would you say REDARC's, where would you say REDARC's maturity is in managing the constant change and the continuous improvement of your base product, of your organisation, of your people, everything within that, and what practices I think would you suggest are really effective, and if not, what's not working, in the same turn?
Yeah, so I think communication is the number one thing around that, and particularly around change management. So, we're really, we had some feedback in the employee surveys around the mid-2000s or 2007, 2008 that we weren't communicating enough. Yeah, and I thought we were actually doing a good job. So that was a sort of bit of a kick in the pants. Actually lift your game. So
tell them once, tell them again. You can never tell them too much.
Yeah, communicate. Mm-hmm. So I think the more we do that, and we have daily toolboxes, weekly team meetings. We have a monthly state of the nation, so every employee in the company comes together once a month, and we communicate how the company's performing and how the economy is going, what are our challenges, how we're going against our strategy. So every month we focus on one area of our strategy for all of the whole team, and everyone
worldwide.
Comes together worldwide. So that.
And what does that look like?
Well, that's pretty much for all the local staff. It's in our lunchroom at Lonsdale, and then our teams for.
Okay, so it's not all together at once. It's as a roadshow almost.
Well, it happens. We'll do two of those a day.
Yep.
And so there'll be a morning session and then an afternoon session. So we'll catch the time zones, and it's also recorded as well. So if someone's away, they can watch a recording. But yeah,
And how long does that typically go for?
typically about 30 to 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll run through each key area of the business,
Yeah.
and we've got our KPIs and how we're travelling, but also key milestones or key highlights in the areas, and then generally finishes up with me, I guess, giving my thoughts around the business and what's the economy and what are our key challenges. So just again very transparent and open with how we're travelling, so that everyone's on the same page.
Do you find yourself repeating yourself every month?
No,
It's
always
different.
something.
It's always
Something different.
Yeah,
always something different.
I suppose when you reach that size and scale, there's always something.
No, even a small business, there's always something. There's
There's
always a new challenge.
Yeah, there is.
It's like as soon as you become comfortable, that's when the next major challenge happens.
Exactly.
So there's always something new to talk about, and again, if you focus on your strategy, then each area. Then like with us, once a month, it might be this. Last month, I'd say it was supply chain, and our supply chain manager got up and spoke about the one pager for the supply chain team and how they're contributing to the company.
Yeah.
It'd be manufacturing or it could be product development, depends what it is. But so that's a key area. I think the other area that creating the right climate so that people actually want to share ideas and they've got a smile on their face and they enjoy their work. So our health and wellbeing program, which my wife Michelle has run for quite a number of years at REDARC, I think second to none, and the work we do around caring for people as the whole person. So it's not just while they're at work; it's actually looking at, well, how can we support you to live a better life as well, and then that then translates to the community. So that the fourth value around our new focus is winning together. Yeah, so it's celebrating successes. Brilliant. So I think creating that environment where people are comfortable to share and challenge, and open door policy for me. They can go and talk to any executive if they've got an idea or put it in our suggestion scheme. These sorts of things, I think, all help create that culture where people actually do want to see this company grow and get better rather than just come to work and be checked out. That's employees once they check out. You're not going forward.
No. Are your leadership set up for success in this space in regards to you? Do you invest time in their own in their own way of leading people through change? Because given the fact that this growth that you are on, the robotics, the automation, everything else that come in, the world domination, there is a lot of change happening. And are your leadership, are they able to lead people through change, and do you invest in them?
Absolutely. Yeah. So one thing I always say to our people, let's find your mentor or let's find an external expert. So we're always continually looking at who can come into our company and share their experience and share their knowledge so that we all become better people. And that could be even not just external people, but within our leadership team. They bring a lot of skills. So, at our next sales major catch-up in June, Peter, our sales customer growth leader, is going to talk about his techniques on how to run a good customer meeting, just open-ended questions, writing notes. It's fairly basic stuff, but it's actually not well practiced. Yeah. I think Americans, he's based in the US, and they just bring such good selling skills.
They know to sell in the US. Yeah.
So, training our Australian team on how to run a good sales meeting or a customer meeting. Yeah. I think that continuous learning is something that we really value. And, I look at my career and the things that BHP did for me with my engineering degree. I'm a Master of Business. I managed to get to Harvard.
I'm going to talk about
the Owners President Management Program, the Governor's Leadership Program. I mean, I think as leaders, if we're not continuously learning, we're the liability. And so I'm always encouraging our people to think about where their blind spots are, how they can improve so that they are the best leaders they can be.
I love that attitude. There's one thing that I thought about straight away was this attitude that you have towards your own continuous growth and learning. And you obviously did the 3-year Harvard course, the OPM,
Owner President Management.
Owner President Management course. That's definitely a course for me that's on my radar. But it's not the cheapest thing going around. What did you learn from that? And what was one of the key takeaways doing that course?
Number one, a global mindset. So I went there as this meek, mild Aussie manager. Scared witless in front of all these, I was with 150 other business leaders from around the globe. And I felt I didn't belong. And so it took, the first the first month session, came back to Australia, then went back again the next year for the second month session, and actually started to feel comfortable that, you know what, I can match it with the best of these people. You know, but what's the difference? They've got a global mindset. So suddenly it opened my eyes up that REDARC needs to be a global business. So I knew I wanted to do that, but it's one thing wanting, and it's the second thing having the right attitude. You know, being open to it. So to me, that was the, you know, forget about all the individual learning because it was massive. It was just, it's like getting an injection of knowledge every day, which was incredible. But it was really that mindset that I came away with, that as Australians, we can match it with the best in the world.
We're not confined to the walls of Australia.
No, and we've got, you know, some good characteristics about Australian managers, you know, in terms of the way we look after people and lead our organisations. But there's also some areas that we can learn from others.
What was the coolest thing you did on that course? Like, what was one thing that you go, you know what, that was bloody awesome?
Our home group won the overall strategy session for the whole course. So we had this strategy pitch. And the house team I belonged to, we won the overall competition for all of the 150 people, which was amazing.
And what was that on? Like, what?
It was on a Brazilian pharmaceutical company.
Okay.
So one of the ladies in our group, was her family company. It was a 100-plus-year-old business, and so we supported her with the strategy development. Then
how good is that?
We had to pitch it, and we won the competition.
What'd you learn about great strategy in that one?
In that one, it was obviously consumer products, so it was around branding, it was around marketing, it was around the fact that the ingredients come from the Amazon, so that purity, you know, so it was all the messages to win the hearts and minds of the consumer. But obviously having a great product development plan, there was, you know, again, there's so many facets of it.
That's so good. I am conscious of your time, but I want to ask a couple of questions before we jump into the quick fire questions right at the end. Obviously, the growth that you've seen at REDARC has been phenomenal since 1997 and 20 as an average of 20% year on year, and then no doubt that's going to continue to flourish. There must have been some sacrifice, and I am, as you've heard, I am very connected to family and trying to maintain a world where these two worlds continuously collide, whereas my visions for what I want from SynergyIQ and this podcast versus the visions that I have with my family and my children and the ability to love and nurture and spend time with them. How have you managed that part of your life? Obviously 4 children is one, and maintaining that and a loving and nurturing relationship with your family whilst trying to realise your visions at the same time. How have you managed that?
Again, multiple things to think about in that question, but I think the first thing is you got to look after yourself as number one. So you know, you got to have the right mindset. You know, so for me, it's about keeping fit. It's about once I leave work, how do I get rid of that day-to-day stress? And I love going for a run, particularly along the beach. So that's number one. And
I do the exact same. Actually.
And you know, the other part of then is time management. Being able to, you know, not take away from never miss key family moments if you can help it. You know, get to your kids' sport, do all those things that you know you need to do. You know, take an hour in the afternoon and go and watch the kids' sports day. But then you have to make up for that in the evening. So you know, it's again prioritising the things that are important, and then work your business around that. So I think, like I say, it's got to come from within yourself, but then having that focus on the family.
Tough question. If I was to ask your wife and children if Anthony managed his time as best as he could, what do you think they would say?
I don't know what the answer would be, but I'd like to think they'd give a fairly positive answer. You know, I don't think I missed too many things. I missed the occasional kid's birthday because I was travelling overseas.
How hard was that on you?
Yeah, that was always a challenging time, and particularly if I missed, you know, like I know I missed a couple of Kirsty's birthdays in a row, and it's like, you know, is there a vendetta against Kirsty? You know, it is tough being away on your kids' birthdays. Again, it's a matter of planning and delegating as well. You know, because I think that's the other thing with the leaders is that you can tend to be a poor delegator means lack of success. So you know, the fact is always trying to hire people better than you, and make sure that you give the autonomy to your leadership team, and that frees up your own time. so that you can actually achieve and succeed on the things that matter to you.
Do you hold, like, and I'm talking from my own perspective here, if I was to miss my children's birthday, and this is I don't want this to come across as with any disrespect that you've missed you, if I would, that would eat away at me so much. How do you manage that? I think, and is there, and maybe for me, it's almost a sense of shame that I'm not a good father if I do that. I think that's trying to,
again, it comes back to communication that we talked about, not only in your business but communication at home about why this trip is so important to what I'm doing. And so even if the kids are young, I'd say, look, this is something very important. I'm really sorry, but they're making up for them when you get back. So always love coming home from travels with gifts for the kids every time. We sit in the lounge room and, there's always, everyone gets a gift to say thanks because I've put up with Dad being away for a couple of weeks. So little things like that, but communicating why it's important and I guess then making sure it's not a regular occurrence.
What are you most proud of?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head there. The most proud of my family and the fact that we've got 4 healthy, beautiful kids that are succeeding in their own right, doing their own things. One of my daughters is an artist, one's studying literary studies. I'm an engineer, Michelle's a nurse, so it's like giving our kids the best environment so they can succeed and do what they're passionate about. So that's something I really thankful for. And then obviously with the business, never would have dreamed that REDARC could be where it's at today and where we want it to be in the future. So obviously that's been something again I'm excited about and thankful.
What was Bob's wife's name again? Margaret. What does Margaret say now, looking at the business?
I haven't spoke to her for a few years, but she wrote a beautiful foreword for our 40th year book. And talked about where the business came from. It talked about her husband Bob and I guess wishing us well for the future. So I read that. That letter went into our book, and it was just so nice to get that feedback. So I know she'd be pretty proud, as I'm sure Bob would be very, very proud. Yeah,
absolutely. And if you could encapsulate, last question before we jump into quickfire, if you can encapsulate your entire journey into one single lesson or a message, what would that be?
My entire journey. Look, I think the relentless pursuit of excellence. I think that's the key, is that we might think we're doing well, but there's always a better way. We can always do better, and it's being open and honest and transparent that where you can improve.
I love that. Do you sweat the small stuff in that relentless pursuit of excellence?
I don't know. I think not really. No, I think you got to let that stuff. No, I don't. The answer's no, because I know that I let that stuff fly to the keeper and just worry about what's important.
Yeah. What about from a customer experience point of view? Do you sweat the small stuff?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We want to be, like I say, our value is customer first, and we want to delight our customer. And if there's any little item that a customer's not happy with us, and I see that, I'll make sure we address it.
Yeah. So there's a fine line there, isn't there, between sweating the small stuff for the customer versus just the business in general?
Yeah, certainly. But the customer's a key priority.
Yeah.
So, there is a fine line. But I think as a leader, if you sweat the small stuff all the time, you're just going to go crazy.
Burn out.
You're not going to sleep. You're going to burn out.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a good family life because you're stressed all the time. So, you just got to learn to focus and prioritise.
How do you help your team, or how do you build the culture? I guess this is a big question, probably too big as we're rounding up, but the sweating of the small stuff of their customer experience, is that just led by you and the executive?
It's easy. Empower people to make decisions.
Yeah.
So I always say, how you would like to be treated as a customer. Please treat our customers the same way. So if you see something you think needs to change, or you need to help a customer out, just do it.
Yeah.
You don't need to ask.
Yeah, I love that. Rightio. Quick 5 questions to round off the podcast. These are designed just to bring a little bit of a smile here at the end. But I'm a big reader, and no doubt you are.
No, I'm not.
Oh, you're not? Okay. You're a learner
I always run out of patience with books, so I love to...
Do you audiobook at all?
I read books, but I just love the speed read.
Yes, yeah. But what about audiobook? Have you tried audio?
I haven't tried audio. Everyone
Yeah.
tells me about that, but
It's,
I love by watching and listening and,
Yeah.
and being involved with people.
Was there anything that you are listening to, reading?
Reading
Yeah.
right at the moment. The book that's on my desk is called Raving Fans by Ken Blanchard.
Oh yeah.
So
What's that?
it's about not just creating people that love your, not people that enjoy the service that you give, but actually creating raving fans about your company. And I think
It's a brand, like a brand type book. Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Ken Blanchard's a management type guru.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
It's
love
a
that.
short book and it's big font. I like that.
Yeah. There's a couple of, when you talk about brands and fans, you think about, you've made it when, and I think you told me a story about this when you saw someone randomly just driving with a REDARC sticker on the back of your car, which was great. And I said, you've made it when your brand is being tattooed on people, like Ferrari and Harley Davidson, or like people are getting these brands tattooed, business brands tattooed on them. So I love that. Is there a book that you've read in the past or skimmed or read?
There's some I've really studied back to front.
What are those that you've...
Good to Great, Jim Collins.
Yeah.
Playing to Win. So a lot of the strategy, I love reading strategy books. Tom Peters, Thriving on Chaos. These sorts of books are the ones that I enjoy, where you can, it's all about strategy, vision, and how you continue to get better. That's one of my key passions.
I love Good to Great and Playing to Win. Yeah, it's
can't remember how many times I've read it.
Yeah.
Always learn something.
What's your favourite part in that?
Oh, I think about those, looking at the series of companies that die off over time versus the ones that are, just have that longevity. I guess what are the key traits that they have that those other companies don't have? And, again, our philosophy around customer service, product development, these, creating a strategy that's actually has longevity.
Yeah. A lot of those lessons still hold true, don't they? What's one lesson that's taking you the longest to learn?
Probably I could procrastinate a little bit.
Yeah.
I guess
it's just thinking time though.
That's true. It is. I like to sleep on things. Yeah. So that would be one, and saying no is probably the second one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm probably saying yes too often.
Well, thank you for not saying no in this case. If you could have coffee with one current or historical figure, who would it be?
One current figure. Look. I love Peter Malinauskas. So just having a coffee with Marley, I think is pretty good. Is that
because you're after some government funding
right
now?
No, I think just a leader I admire and doing great things for our state.
He's doing some good stuff. What's one or some of the best advice that you've ever received?
Make the call, don't take the call.
Make the call,
Don't take the call. Best advice I've ever received from my advisory board chairman, Paul Crawford.
Is that in regards to if there's something...
Anything in life.
Anything, yeah.
Business and life.
Sort it out.
If there's an issue...
Make the call.
Make the call. Don't... Every problem festers, becomes way greater than it really is by jumping on the front foot and making the call.
Yeah, I like that.
Best advice ever.
It works for everything. It works for sales, works for everything.
Yep. Friendships, you name it. It's important everywhere.
Yeah, make the call, don't take the call. But you still take the call if the call comes, yeah?
Of course. I guess what I'm saying there
I
is...
know. I'm
no, but I'll give you a good example, where you've got an issue with a customer and you're thinking about how you actually respond or you want to see a little bit of time pass and the customer calls you and lets you have it because, you knew about this and why didn't you tell me?
Yeah, correct.
Nothing worse.
And that's, I think, really ties in with your fanatical customer experience that you've...
And the other one is if you're not prepared to stand at Moore's balls and say it to the public, then don't do it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I like that too.
Yeah, transparency, openness, honest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, that's another
that's
another
so good.
CMV saying I've used.
Oh, yeah, yes, CMV. What's one habit that holds you back the most?
One habit that holds me back the most? Well, like I said, probably not saying no enough.
Yeah.
Spreading myself too thinly.
Yeah. What's your biggest pet peeve? What pisses you off the most?
People that say I all the time.
That comes back to your we, not I.
We and we're a team. Yeah. It's not my idea, it's our idea.
Our idea,
These
that's
sorts of
right.
things,
Yeah. If you could pay someone to do one of your chores, what would it be?
Wash my car.
Yeah. I hate washing the car. It's
Some
the
people
worst.
love washing their car, and I like it, but
There are machines that do that, though.
yeah.
But it's,
I love mowing the lawn. I'd rather mow the lawn than
really?
wash the car. It's one of my most relaxing things to do. Yeah,
nothing better than freshly cut lawn. The
Exactly.
smell of freshly cut lawn. I love
that's
it.
it.
What's one word that you absolutely hate?
I said it.
Yeah. What's the first thing that you would do if you became invisible?
Solve crime.
Solve crime. You reckon you could do that?
I could be a good detective, I reckon.
If you're invisible, you can see things.
right.
See things. Brilliant. What's the most useless talent that you have?
Many.
Yeah.
I couldn't even comment on
Yeah.
one. Many.
Hopefully, it's the next one. Telling bad dad jokes.
jokes.
Tell us your best dad joke.
Well, we've talked a lot about relentless innovation.
Yeah.
So did you know that the inventor of the Ferris wheel and the inventor of the merry-go-round never met? They moved in different circles.
That's horrible. It's so good. That's brilliant. Look, thank you so much for your time today, Anthony.
Thanks, Daniel.
It's been an amazing chat. Your story, your growth, your development, everything that you were doing here for manufacturing in South Australia and Australia and globally, I guess, and the products in which you offer. I think everyone are really enjoying the fruitful nature and the investment, the R&D investment that you put into it, right? The rigorous investment that you put into it. So thank you for all that you're doing. You are having an impact on this world, and it's amazing to see. I feel very privileged to sit here for an hour and a half or so and share your story. So thank you.
Much appreciated. Thanks for prizing all those things out of me. I appreciate it.
Not a worry.
Thanks, Daniel.
That's it for us. Take care, everyone. We'll catch you next time. Thanks for listening to the podcast all. You can check out the show notes if there was anything of interest to you and find out more about us at SynergyIQ.com.au. I am going to ask, though, if you did like the podcast, it would absolutely mean the world to me if you could subscribe, rate, and review. And if you didn't like it, that's all right too. There's no need to do anything. Take care, guys. All the best.